Okay, this week we get into step 10. So this one is continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So this is basically like this step. You might think like, oh hey, we're looking at like when we screw up and everything, we take ownership for it, and like, yes, you do. Like, okay, hey, look, I handled the situation poorly and everything, but underneath this is like you're looking at your pretty much. You have to constantly be looking at yourself like, hey, look, you're completely fucking worthless. You remember that, so you kind of have to reiterate like that you're utterly powerless, utterly hopeless, and utterly worthless. So this is kind of like you have to continually be able to beat yourself down to remind yourself that, hey, look, you're a worthless piece of shit alcoholic, and you have to continually remind yourself of that. That's not the way you want to go about your life and everything. You want to go about and be like, hey, look, yes, I do screw up from time to time, but you're not just sit there and you're completely fucking worthless alcoholic. You actually are, chances are, having more success in your life than you do failures, and so like it's getting into that negative mind space with this step and everything. So it's the constant like beating yourself up and like getting into like the maybe not necessarily a clinical level of depression, but like getting to maybe that quite possibly depression, like fucking worthless and look at all this, all I keep fucking up and you don't need that negative self-talk, and so that's what this step is all about and everything. So like and of course it gets to the point where the only way you feel good about yourself is like, yeah, look at, like when you go to meet when you go into an AA meeting, like, yeah, look at how worthless I am, and like, well, I'm doing better now, and like you continue that negative self-talk, and eventually the more and more you reiterate that, the more and more it's going to come true. So like you're going to want those positive affirmations, like to be able to like, hey, look, yes, I've screwed up in the past, but I've learned from them. So in like, that way, I can get better and everything. So like, as cats needs attention and everything. So yeah, you need so much attention. Yeah, you appear in my other videos. Yeah, aren't you gonna go? Oh yes, you're nice and comfy. Anyway, that's what this step is all about, is basically having that like a fuck you attitude towards yourself and everything. So you kind of have to have that self-deprivation and like again having that like negative self-talk of like, oh well, I'm a worthless alcoholic, I deserve this, and you, like the saying like you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And when you're like getting into that negative self-talk in AA meetings, surround yourself with people that have that negative self-talk. So chances are the people that you surround yourself with having that negative self-talk and always constantly um, degrading each other and degrading you, you're degrading yourself, you're degrading others. You don't want to be around that negativity, because like constantly being around that fuck you, fuck this, fuck that attitude, it's pretty much not a way to live and everything. So what you want to do instead is build yourself up. Now, with those positive affirmations, like I said, now does not mean that like, hey, look, when you screw up and everything, you just don't take any responsibility. When you do, like, oh hey, yeah, look, I made a mistake and everything, you take responsibility and you learn from it and you move on, like, okay, and then build yourself up, like, okay, so I don't make those mistakes again and everything. That's the way you want to go about it. So this is why I always reiterate, you want to get rid of AA and start surrounding yourself with better people that don't have that fuck you, fuck this, fuck that attitude and everything. That's why you want to get into like the other programs that I've mentioned in other videos. So go check those scroll down and like check those ones out as well. So like for instance, like the Phoenix program is based on like building the community around fitness and everything. And so like having been going to the gym for like pretty much like, well, getting back into it like over the past decade or so, most of the people that you're going to meet in the gym are positive people that want like are going to like want to see you succeed. And like, oh hey, look, hey, look, you're doing like the bicep curls like slightly wrong, or like here's a different variation of the bicep curl. Instead of doing it like this, you do it like this, and you can get this. And they're going to give you advice and be able to build you up and everything. And then you can turn around, and once you start building yourself up and gain that experience, you can do the same for other people. So that's why you want to surround yourself with positive people that like can help you out, even if it's just like in like the gym and passing information like oh, get information in passing, like, hey, here's how you can do this instead. So therefore you can pick up knowledge and experience and pass it along to other people and everything. So as like cat still is always all nice and comfy and everything. That's pretty much like why you want to join the like in a sense the Phoenix program. Like now with like things like Smart Recovery, ROR, Reach Out Recovery, like SOS, all the other programs, it helps you get your like mental state in order. So that way, like you can again turn around and be like, hey, look, with Smart Recovery, you can say, hey, look, I used like a bunch of the CBT, the REBT, the DBT, like all these behavioral therapy or approaches, and turn around and be like, hey, look, I can now help people do the same. Yes, you just need attention, huh? Yes, we're talking about how people got to get away from the negative people. And now here's like Mr. Positive himself and everything. So anyway, and then with like the little pie chart where you put like a like value, you put like on a scale of like 1 to 10 on like your values and everything, you can kind of rate yourself. You can use stuff like that and tools and like again turn around and be able to like use stuff like that, like, oh hey, here's the Smart Recovery handbook that worked out great for me, why don't you try this out and everything. And again, so if you can't necessarily surround yourself with positive people, try and get professional help to get your mental state in order so you can be that positive person, so you don't necessarily like have that like fuck you, fuck this, fuck that attitude like that is pretty much rampant in AA, because like you kind of like have to have that, like, again, that self-deprecation attitude, and like gives everyone a chuckle, and like everyone does the same thing, and like yeah, like we're all just a bunch of worthless alcoholics, and having that negative self-talk is definitely not worth being around it. And so this is kind of like, as you can see, like the constant reminder of like having that screw you attitude towards yourself, and you have to constantly have that negative self-talk and everything. And so it's in essence like a culmination of like the previous 9 steps, and like I stated in like this last week, like you have to sit there and grovel and beg for forgiveness from others. You can see how it kind of ties into like getting that negative self-talk, that negative attitude towards yourself and everything, and it doesn't necessarily do you any good by continually being like all depressed and having that screw you attitude towards yourself and everything. As he's back for more attention. So anyway, with Reach Out, like Reach Out Recovery, Smart Recovery, SOS, like Rational Recovery, like there's even moderation management that like some people would be able to do something like that. You're going to much better get your life in order and get into like a more positive mindset. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to have our days where we're kind of like having that fucking hey, Jesus Christ, this just sucks and everything. Like, we're going to have days like that. It's just a matter of building yourself up, so that way those days aren't 24/7. They're here and there, where maybe you had like a bad day like on a Monday. Well, Monday, like this day was a shit show. Okay, moving on. Tuesday it gets better, and then like the next week on Monday, okay, it's Monday, but like it's better than last Monday or whatever. So it ends up those bad days where you do have that maybe down in the dumps, and maybe you do have that self-talk, negative self-talk, become less and less frequent, and your better days become more and more frequent. That's what that's all about, and not this one step 10 where like in other words, you have reiterating, you have to constantly remind yourself, yes, you're a worthless alcoholic. You have to have that fuck you attitude, tell yourself. That's I keep reiterating, that's not a way to go about your life and everything. You're going to be, I keep reiterating in every video, better served by getting into alternatives other than AA. So that's why I pretty much tear apart these steps and be like, hey, look, here's a way that like you don't want to do these steps. You want to get into like a professional help, doing stuff like I keep mentioning Smart Recovery because that's the one I'm most familiar with. So I tend to bias my like viewpoints towards that only because I'm most familiar with that and everything. And that does not say that it's the only way and everything, because I mentioned the other ones I mentioned and everything can be just as good, if not better, and everything. So you have to find, whether it's reach out recovery, rational recovery, smart recovery, like doing the Phoenix program, or a combination of them. You have to find what ones of those work for you, so that way you can ditch this negative fuck you self-talk and everything, and start getting that positive mindset and actually start getting better in life. So that's why you want to ditch these pathetic steps and get into all those alternatives that I've mentioned before.